Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva begins his state visit to China, previously postponed due to health reasons. Russian authorities said that the Kamchatka peninsula in the far east of the country remains on red alert due to the eruption of the Shi-Veluch volcano. And also in Myanmar, authorities confirmed the death of 50 people during a bombing against alleged dissident groups in the middle of a proselytizing event. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. In Brazil, the President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva begins on Tuesday his state visit to China, previously postponed due to health reasons. The head of state acknowledged that it will be a busy trip and ratified his desire to strengthen the political and commercial relationships between both powers. Peace in the midst of the Ukrainian conflict will also be high on the working agenda, as both the Chinese President Xi Jinping and President Lula da Silva have insisted on a peaceful solution to the conflict. This will be Lula's third visit to China as Brazil's president. He is accompanied by a large delegation of ministers who are also attending the inauguration of the former Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff as head of the BRICS Development Bank. Venezuela's Attorney General Tarek William Saab informed on Monday that the number of people arrested for allegedly being involved in new corruption schemes in the state-owned companies, the justice system, and other government agencies rose to 55. The head of the Public Prosecutor's Office detailed that the number of captured people responds to the 67 arrest warrants issued against people involved in corruption mafias discovered within PDVSA, ZVG, Sunacrip, among other state institutions. Saab added that for now, 12 more captures of requested persons are still pending. He also detailed that in the anti-corruption procedures will begin in mid-March, 142 raids have been carried out in different regions of the country. On Monday, Cuba's central bank announced that the U.S. dollar will once again be accepted in banks and other non-banking financial institutions. Authorities informed that the repeal of the Resolution 176/2021, which prohibited the acceptance of the U.S. dollar in cash, responds to the current circumstances and priorities of the economic policy. The exchange market, established in August 2022, among other measures, created the conditions to take this step. The Central Bank of Cuba also said that since the U.S. policy of economic pressure that led to the June 2021 decision remains in place, the underlying problem has not been resolved. Therefore, it will be necessary to monitor the evolution of banking and financial activity. Cuban authorities are confident that the measure will prove beneficial for the nation's economy and for the public. On Monday, Cuba and Switzerland voiced their desire to continue strengthening their bilateral relations with a long history of friendship and cooperation. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez received his Swiss counterpart Ignacio Cassis, who is making an official visit. The European diplomat expressed his intention to note the island's efforts to develop despite the adversities in the economic field. Cassis acknowledged that Switzerland is very close to Cuba in promotion of various mutual cooperation programs and expressed his desire to contribute more to the development of the Caribbean nation. For his part, Bruno Rodriguez described relations with Switzerland as harmonious, respectful, productive, and mutually enriching or enhancing in the cultural, educational, and scientific fields.
We are particularly grateful to Switzerland for having represented Cuba's interests in third countries at significant moments and contributed to the development of our ties, particularly at the European and multilateral levels.
In Haiti, cholera deaths rise to nearly 650 for a total of 2,538 confirmed cases since the first outbreaks of the disease in October 2022. According to the Health Ministry's balance sheet, about 39,246 people are suspected cases, while more than 33,000 of them needed medical assistance. Likewise, according to the agency, children under 5 years of age lead the number of suspected cases, with almost 9,000 reported since October the 3rd. At the end of March, the Ministry of Health announced the mobilization of rapid intervention teams to stop the spread of cholera. However, the current outbreak is taking place in the midst of a complex multidimensional crisis in the Caribbean country, which has caused the closure of health institutions while gangs conquer territories in the capital and several departments. And now we move on to other topics. The technical director of the geohazards of the Colombian Geological Service, John Macario Londoño, announced that the magma levels at the Nevado del Ruiz volcano have moved to a magmatic chamber at a depth of 3 kilometers, and the fracture earthquakes have decreased.
Today, the situation is different. That magma reached a different magmatic chamber the volcano has, about 3 kilometers deep below the crater, and the conditions then change. Now there are not so many fracture earthquakes, and that magma is already in place. That is why the number of earthquakes is not a single indicator. It was important while the magma began to move in previous days, but that time is over now. That curve that was an important peak then went back down. We are almost at the same levels we were on March the 24th.
In addition, the technical director of geohazards pointed out that the situation in Nevado del Ruiz is complicated, since it is a volcano that has been erupting for 10 years in small eruptions.
The situation is more complicated. This volcano has been erupting for 10 years, with magma pulses that reach a certain point and stop. Others reach other parts closer to the crater. The situation is more complex. So it is not so easy to compare with other volcanoes, and it is important to be focused on what the volcano has been showing and how it is also showing these changes in real time.
On Tuesday, Russian authorities said that the Kamchatka peninsula in the far east of the country remains on red alert due to the eruption of the Shi-Veluch volcano. The volcano erupted on Tuesday, expelling a dense column of ash that reached a height of 15 kilometers, causing the worst ash fall in 60 years. According to Russian specialist Alexei Ozerov, the last time a significant amount of ash fell was in 1964. The emergency department confirms that all roads and educational institutions have been closed and masks have been distributed to residents. The Kamchatka Peninsula, which extends into the Pacific Ocean about 6,600 kilometers east of Moscow, is one of the world's most concentrated area of geothermal activity, with about 30 active volcanoes. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on our TikTok at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko expressed his wish for Russia to defend Belarus as its own territory during his meeting with Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. During the meeting, the president stated that the Western countries did not abide by the security guarantees offered in the Budapest Memorandum to three former Soviet countries, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, and Belarus, in exchange for getting rid of their nuclear arsenals in 1994. In this way, Lukashenko conveyed this concern to President Putin, who supported him and advocated the revision of bilateral treaties and agreements, as well as the search for an interstate legal framework to ensure the security of Belarus.
During talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin on union state between Russia and Belarus, it was said that in case of an aggression against Belarus, the Russian Federation would defend Belarus like its own territory. These are the security guarantees.
For his part, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu thanked the Defense Minister of Belarus and its President Alexander Lukashenko for the cooperation received.
I would like to say a special thank you to your Defense Ministry, to you personally. We've been offered 5 training grounds on the territory of Belarus. They have equipment. Moreover, a sufficient amount of instructors and officers have been assigned by the Belarusian armed forces, including for training our newcomers.
In Ukraine, the head of the presidential office, Andriy Yermak, confirmed the return of 100 war prisoners to the country after a new exchange with Russia. The head of the Ukrainian presidential office assured that everything will be done to ensure that each of the prisoners will receive the help they need. Among the released Ukrainian military personnel, there were soldiers of the Land Army, sailors, border guards, and members of the National Guard. Some of the servicemen were captured at the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol, which was captured by Russia in May last year. And the Turkish Navy incorporated on Monday into its naval forces the amphibious assault ship TCG Anadolu, adapted to carry attack drones. The ceremony was attended by the country's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The TCG Anadolu was built as part of a multi-purpose landing craft, a project and is capable of deploying battalion-equivalent forces to target areas without requiring additional support from main bases. Adapted to carry attack drones, the TCG Anadolu will be the first ship in the world to achieve this. The TCG Anadolu measures 231 meters in length and has a 32-meter beam. When fully equipped, it will displace 27,436 tons. This amphibious assault ship project, designed to carry both helicopters and drones, came about after the United States refused to include Ankara in the F-35 fifth-generation fighter project. In Italy, authorities reported that about 1,000 undocumented asylum seekers arrived during the last 24 hours in the island of Lampedusa. According to the Italian Coast Guard, 26 boats were attended and almost 2,000 asylum seekers remain in facilities with a maximum capacity of 400 people. Meanwhile, authorities are working on the relocation of the migrants towards Sicily, while specialized organizations in migration warned that there are more unsafe boats at sea. Local media detailed that weather conditions are favorable, a fact that boosts the new migratory wave coming from Tunisia. On Easter Monday, Pope Francis commemorated the 25th anniversary of the peace accords that put an end to the armed conflict in Northern Ireland and wished that this will be extended to other parts of the world. From St. Peter's Square of the Vatican, the Supreme Pontiff recalled that the Good Friday of Belfast Agreement put an end to the violence that had troubled Northern Ireland for decades. In this way, Francis prayed that what was achieved with this historic agreement would be consolidated for the benefit of all the men and women of the island of Ireland, and also said that he wished the gift of peace for the whole world. The petition came after praying the Regina Caeli before the faithful gathered in the vicinity of the Vatican for Easter Monday, a feast day in Italy. TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries using StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Tuesday in Myanmar, authorities confirmed the death of 50 people after a military air attack against allegedly dissident groups which took place at residents gathered for the inauguration of an administrative office. According to an official spokesperson, forces led by the country's ruling military junta reportedly carried out an airstrike against the group as it was opening one of these offices in the town of Pasiji, known to be a bastion of opposition to the coup carried out 2 years ago. The spokesperson estimated the number of dead around 50 people. On February 1st, 2021, the military overthrew the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi, prompting peaceful protests that security forces suppressed with violence that has since escalated and that experts from the United Nations and other agencies have called a civil war. Witnesses have stated that Tuesday's attack was one of the worst since the military seized control of the country. The Chinese People's Liberation Army successfully completed the military exercises around Taiwan, ratifying its readiness to protect its territorial sovereignty. The Chinese Army's Eastern Theater of Operations explained that it tested its forces in real combat conditions, in which they completed various tasks of combat readiness. Chinese military spokesperson Shi-Veluch assured that the troops are now ready to fight against any form of separatism and attempts of foreign interference. China considers Taiwan a province in rebellion since the Kuomintang nationalists retreated to the island in 1949 after losing the civil war against the Communist Party. It is also a major bone of contention between Beijing and Washington, since the latter is Taiwan's main arms supplier and its biggest military ally. On Monday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said separatist activities seeking Taiwan independence is as incompatible with peace and stability of the Taiwan Strait as fire with water.
The international community fully recognizes the truth of the Taiwan question, staunchly abides by the One China principle, and firmly opposes all forms of Taiwan independence separatist activity. Taiwan independence and Taiwan Strait peace and stability are mutually exclusive things. If we want to protect peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, we must firmly oppose any form of Taiwan independence separatism. A spokesperson for the Eastern Theater Command of the Chinese People's Liberation Army said a few days ago that from April 8th to 10th, the Eastern Theater Command of the Chinese People's Liberation Army will hold the joint sword exercise surrounding Taiwan Island to organize combat readiness and police patrols around Taiwan. This is a serious warning to the provocations of Taiwan independent separatist forces and external forces, and it is a necessary action to safeguard sovereignty and territorial integrity.
The United Kingdom government has announced its decision to halt the recruitment of health workers from Nigeria after the World Health Organization, the WHO, identified Nigeria as one of the 55 countries with significant health workforce challenges. The decision places the most populous African country on the red list of nations not to be targeted for recruitment. Following a report issued by the WHO a month ago, the UK government advised health and social care employers not to actively seek workers from these countries except in cases of a government-to-government agreement. In this way, the country noticed that the increasing scale of health and social care worker migration from low and lower middle-income countries threatens the achievement of their nation's health and social care goals. Currently, there are over 11,000 Nigerian-trained doctors in the United Kingdom, according to the UK General Medical Council's data. And Cameroon is looking to rejoin the U.S. Trade Initiative for Africa as the country works to boost export revenues amid falling foreign exchange earnings. Cameroon's Economy Minister Alamino Ousmane May said his country has started talks with Washington for admission back into Africa and Growth and Opportunities Act, the AGOA, which grants African countries tariff-free access to the U.S. market. The fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic and the global shocks triggered by the conflict in Ukraine have have hit Cameroon hard, denting economic growth and undermined its ability to repay debt. The International Monetary Fund forecasts that Cameroon, a Central African oil producer, will record a 4.3% economic growth this year. In 2019, the U.S. kicked Cameroon out of the AGOA program for rights violation by security forces in the restive southwest and northwest regions. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.